What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. Or welcome if you're new here. Come and join us. You're all welcome. And we talk here all things Blades. It's an open and honest platform where we can respectfully share opinions. We don't have to agree. I'm not always right. You're not always right. But at least here we can get things off our chest. So the state of play so far, it is 1 point from 4 games. On paper, awful. Results against teams that we could have probably nicked a couple of bits from. Awful, really. I'm thinking Forest before they did their ridiculous deadline day splash of 7 players. They now, to me, will be an established Premier League club, unfortunately. But they're just throwing so much money at it that I don't think they'll get pulled into a relegation battle. Palace, I think we're a missed opportunity. I think we all agree, but we weren't ready for that game. But we've got stronger and stronger. Stronger all the time. City, we played fantastically well. Just came up short. They are the best team in the world. So there's no such thing as a free hit. And we were so close to getting a point, but wasn't quite to be in the end. And yesterday, as I record this, we drew with Everton at home in a very even game with both teams going for it, throwing everything we had at it. And we have got better game on game. And the reason we've got better is because we've got better players in. Why the deadline comes 4 games into the season or 3 games in, I've no idea. It's ridiculous in my eyes. Having said that, we are now at our strongest position. Got some great players in. I'm really excited for the future with this team. You talk about players like Gus Hamer on a 4-year contract +1. You talk about Vinny Souza, 4-year contract +1. Cameron Archer. And Cameron Archer is a bit of a different deal because we know that if we're relegated, he goes straight back to Villa. So all the more reason to stay up, let's be right. But some of these signings, Anel last season, signed till 2026, no doubt +1. So what we're going to do today is have a look at the contract situation currently. And because there's a bit of ambiguity over who's got a +1 in their contract, we're going to assume that nobody has. What I'm going to do is go through the current state of play with contracts, whose contract expires when, and we're going to talk about who needs a new deal. And that's where the focus should now shift. We've got players like George Baldock, Reece Norrington-Davies, Ollie McBurney, due out of contract at the end of this season. Again, some of these players may have a +1, but without that being revealed by the club, we're going to assume that nobody has a +1. So this is what we need to do in terms of renegotiation. So let's get down to it. Starting off, keepers. Wes, our main boy at the minute. I have questioned him from time to time, and I'm still not 100% sure that he gets in most Premier League sides. But we are where we are as a club, and we have to recognise that. We've got the 19th biggest budget in this league. There's only Luton we're able to outbid. And we all know the financial situation of the club, so we can't attract the biggest and the best. We don't expect to have top players in every position. But Wes has done nothing wrong this season so far. He's handled the step up quite well. I still would like some competition for him. But his contract is up at the end of this season, as is his understudy, Adam Davis, our current number 2, who hasn't really let us down whenever he's stepped up, but doesn't instill confidence in a lot of us. He's also out of contract at the end of this year. And Jordi Amissa, who comes into the 25-man squad rather than being an under-21 player, because he's actually 22 now. His contract also expires at the end of this year. So that's all 3 goalkeepers on the books currently whose deal expires at the end of this current season. So it's a straight pick, really, isn't it? What do we do? Who deserves a new deal? Is it 1, 2, all 3, none? Starting off with the young lad, Jordi Amissa. He's a unit, this lad. Built like a keeper. He's probably the most aesthetically built goalkeeper that we've got. Not really seen enough of him. And by that, I mean, I haven't literally seen a lot of him. But those performances that I have seen from him haven't been awe-inspiring or give me the impression that he's going to be the next big thing. But I don't think you can rule him out just on that. He is the 3rd goalkeeper in this squad. He's been named as our 3rd goalkeeper. With that in mind, I'd like to have Marcus Dewhurst go out on loan and get some minutes in the EFL, but that's a another conversation for a different day. Do we offer Jordi Amissa a new contract? And I would say yes. I would pip for offering him at least another year, potentially with an option, and get him out on loan as we bring in an upgrade, hopefully. Somebody that can compete with Wes. Adam Davis. Does Adam Davis get another deal? Not for me. Not for me. That's whether we stay in the Premier League or if we're relegated to the Championship. I think at 31, he's not really going to push Wes now at this stage of his career. He's been an okay number 2. No issues with that at all. But I'd like to see us improve in this area now. And that would include moving Davis on. Now on to our current number 1, Wes Foderingham. Does Wes get another deal? Yes, he does for me. I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. He's not done anything wrong. I think if we're going to move forward as a club, we need to have someone at least compete with Wes. So that ideally would be younger. I'm talking a Mike Cooper or a Victor Johansson, somebody that can really push him and eventually potentially succeed that role. I've seen a few wanting Kasper Schmeichel. I understand that as a short-term fix. And if Wes went down injured, then potentially it's something we might look at, but as like a short-term fix. But I'm thinking about the longevity of the club when dealing with contracts and things of that nature. So for me, Wes gets another deal. No-brainer. Sign him up. On to the defence then. Anel Ahmedhodzic. What a player. We've got him tied down till 2026. 24 years old. Yeah, he's hopefully will be part of the future of this football club. I say hopefully because if we're relegated, I think he's going to be the one that big clubs come in for. Austin Trusty, another one. I really like him. Contracted now to 2027, 25 years old. He is part of the future of this football club, undoubtedly. And it's an interesting one because he's competing with Jack Robinson, 30 years old. Got another 2-year deal recently and playing very well this season, it has to be said. But I would like to look at succession planning for Trusty taking over Robinson. That will happen naturally rather than forced. And at the minute, it's Robbo's shirt to lose. Chris Basham, 35 years old. We all love Bash. And he's still doing a bit part role for us at the moment. I always feel a little bit uncomfortable because he always seems so unorthodox. But he's never let us down in 10 years, has he? What a servant he's been to the club. He's in his 10th season with us now. But this will be it for me. I think we thank Basham for his service at the end of the season, and we look to bring in a new right centre-back to compete with Anel, or even as a starter with Anel moving into the middle, because that moves me on to John Egan, who at the start of the season, which was only a couple of weeks ago, like 3-4 weeks ago, John Egan would have been a starter for me all day long. One of the first names on the team sheet. New captain of the club. Is that weighing heavy on him? Because his performances have not been great. He's due out of contract at the end of the season. Having said all that, I don't think we can lose John Egan. Whether he remains a starter will be a big question mark going forward. He will need to up his form. I thought he played better yesterday against Everton, but he's still not firing on all cylinders. So for me, Egan gets a new deal, but he cannot rest on his laurels and must improve his performances. Right wing back, George Baldock had a bit of a torrid time yesterday, to be honest, against Everton. He also is out of contract at the end of the year, 30 years old. But you cannot let George Baldock go. One of our most important players. He gets it. He's a blade. He's an adopted blade, but he's a blade. You can tell he loves the club and we love him. Gives absolutely everything for the shirt. George Baldock gets another contract. No problem at all. We've got Jayden Bogle competing with Baldock. Bogle due out of contract. 23 now, Jayden. And hot and cold. A little bit inconsistent, it's fair to say. Had some injury problems. But he's also, particularly as an understudy to George. And sometimes if George were to dip in form, which he may do, Bogle will get his chance. So I think Bogle gets another deal as well. And I think he's part of the future of this football club. I'd like to see a long deal for Jayden Bogle because he will be our long-term right wing-back, hopefully. Then we come to our problem position, left wing-back. Reece Norrington-Davies is a huge favourite of mine, as you all know. 24 years old now, had a horrendous injury, which has kept him out nearly a year now, which is a nightmare to think for the lad. And he won't be back till around November time, from what I'm hearing, if you know, that's providing there's no further setbacks. Does Reece get a new deal? He's currently out of contract at the end of the season. As I say, some of these players have options, but without the club revealing it, we're just going to assume that no one has an option. Rhys Norrington-Davies 100% gets a new deal. And again, I'm offering him a long contract. He's one of those players that I don't think at the moment, and I suppose the injury has sort of helped us with this because there was Premier League interest in him when he went down injured. But I don't think at the moment he would command a huge fee or even a starting spot in many Premier League sides. So with that in mind, working in our favour, let's tie him down to a very long contract, 4 or 5 years with an option. And then if we get relegated, he remains part of our squad and part of our future as a club because what a player he can be. Max Lowe, out of contract at the end of the season. Not for me. Not for me, Max Lowe. He's not up to Premier League level. I didn't think he were really that great in the Championship, if I'm honest. Max Lowe is one that I'm going to say thank you for your service and see you down the road. Similar to with Yasser Larouci, we've not signed him. He's on a loan with a view to buy, and that's an option in our favour. I'm not committing to buying Yasser Larouci. And do I see him as a long-term left wing-back successor? Is he going to get in front of Rhys Norrington-Davies? Not for me. I think somebody who I would like to see brought in on a permanent basis is Luke Thomas from Leicester, who made his debut as I record this yesterday against Everton, looked really calm, composed. And I think if we make him permanent in January, tie him down to a long contract, there could be our Baldock and Bogle on the left-hand side, Rhys Norrington-Davies and Thomas fighting it out for that starting berth, genuine competition for each other. It were a coup to get him on loan. I know we had to do it as a straight loan to get it all done quickly, but what a player this lad could be going forward. If Leicester are willing to let him go, then before he becomes an outstanding asset for us, let's get him in permanently. Moving on to our midfield then. Gustavo Hamer is right up there, neck and neck for me, signing of the season. Absolute signing. What an unbelievable player this lad will be. And at 26, he's coming into his prime. He's the oldest player we've bought this summer at 26. Paid 15 million for him. You know, it's not pocket change, is it? But he's worth every penny. You can see us struggling to hold on to him, if I'm honest, if we're relegated. But we will hold the cards because he's contracted till 2027, likely with a +1. So Gus Hamer. And similar to Vinny Souza, these aren't the players we're talking about today, really, because these are in long, healthy contracts. Vinny Souza, 24 years old, contracted to 2027. We don't know the details of Vinny Souza's contract. There was a rumour that he had a relegation release clause. I'm not one to speak on that at the moment. I don't know whether that's true or not. And we may not know. And hopefully we never have to know because we will survive in the Premier League. And that's what we're aiming for, isn't it? So these aren't the players we're looking at. Tom Davies, another one that came in, 25 years old, contracted to 2026. What a healthy midfield three that is. And that's before you consider James McAtee on loan, who obviously won't be with us beyond this season. But that midfield in itself is really strong for me, particularly at Championship level. And that's what we have to think about as well. Ollie Norwood, very difficult one this, because he's out of contract at the end of the season, but he's 32. Now, do we want a 33, 34-year-old Ollie Norwood in the Premier League next year? No, I don't think we do, if I'm honest. I think we can upgrade. I think with the amount of midfielders we brought in, because we haven't even mentioned Slimani, who's contracted to 2026, and he's 22 years old. So we've already got Gus Hamer, Vinny Souza, Tom Davies, and Slimani. For me, then, Norwood isn't a part of our plans going forward after this season. He's another one, great servant for the club. And he's playing very well at the moment. But I'm not sure that will carry over into next season. And again, we're talking well ahead of time here. And I'm jumping way forward. But when you're planning these contracts and who you want to remain at the club long term, I think you've got to have these sort of things in mind. John Fleck is another one. Absolutely bamboozled me as to why Flecky was given a new deal. I love John Fleck. We cannot forget with these players what a service they've given to United. So I will never say a bad word about how John Fleck has contributed to United. But I think we run the risk of some of these legends becoming tarnished, and that's very strong. But I mean, Flecky's injury prone at the minute. He has been for some time, and we wish him all the best in his recovery, obviously. But I don't think he's good enough for a place in this 25-man squad. And I think this will be Fleck's last year with us. He's out of contract at the end of the season, as is Ozzy, Mr. Versatile, 29 now, Ozzy. But I don't think, again, I think we've got to try and up the quality level across the field. That leaves us with our midfield four who are in contract. And that, again, is Hamer, Souza, Slimani and Tom Davis. We would only have to bring one more in, really, to sort of solidify us, you know, two at a push. You could get a Premier League loan. This is if we're to stay up. Even if we go down as well, we're losing a lot of money off the wages by letting Norwood, Fleck, Ozzy go. There's Koulibaly as well, who I always forget about, unfortunately. He hasn't really shown me enough. I wouldn't be upset to see him go either. And that's harsh on the lad, maybe, but that's the truth of where I'm at, really, on Izzy Koulibaly. On to the strikers then, the main boys. Cameron Archer, the main boy, the statement signing, if you like, will not be with us, obviously, if we get relegated. However, if we stay up, he's contracted till 2027. Got to think there's a +1 in there. Would love a +1 in there. He is going to be our talisman going forward. He will score us the goals that we need at this level. If we can keep him as long as possible, I think we've got a real gem there. Going to work well with Ollie McBurney, who is out of contract at the end of the season. We exercised his option for an extra year, and that leaves us now at the point where we know he hasn't got an extension. I would like us, I think it's got to be a priority now to get Ollie McBurney, who's 27, coming into his prime, if not about reaching his prime. He's looking very good this season already. Let's get him in. Let's tie him down. I think, all joking aside, this man could be considered a future captain of the club. And that's a strong statement for somebody who's a big, big character. But he epitomises everything we love about this club for me. I mean, he's a bit of a boy, or he has been in the past, off the field. I think him and George Baldock particularly encapsulate everything we love about our football club. So let's get Ollie Mack tied down. Ryan Brewster, 23 years old, has got another year to run on his deal after the end of this season. So he's got more time to come back and prove himself. I think he could potentially have a really good year. Let's hope he's fit and firing after the international break, because to bring him on instead of Traore gives us a little bit more substance, I think, and depth, really, in the squad that we need. Benny Traore coming on to him, contracted to 2027. No danger, he'll be with us long term. I think he could probably benefit from a loan as and when our squad depth improves. But for now, he'll remain in and around the squad, as will Will Asula, whose contract details are largely unknown, to be honest. But I would assume there is out of contracts at the end of this season. Same with Jebo. Jebo, the last one we're going to talk about, is stalling. And I'm not saying he's stalling. I'm saying the contract issue is sort of up in the air. Basically, I've talked about this previously. He is unsure. He has got interest from elsewhere. If he wasn't going to sign the contract prior to the window closing, we were going to consider selling him. And I don't think that would have been a bad shout from us. But because he got injured, no deal could go through with another club. I'm not saying that was on the cards, but that it was taken off the table completely. And now if he doesn't sign a contract with us, he's going to go for nothing at the end of the season. Well, a small tribunal fee. So we've now got to hope that Jebo signs a new deal. But it's swung back in his favour because, as I say, we would have sold him had he not signed a new deal. But because he got injured and couldn't be sold, and we couldn't give him that ultimatum, then we haven't got a decision either way yet. So as it stands, having released all the players that we've talked about, this is the squad that we're left with at the end of the season. I've taken out Jimmy Mack. I've included Luke Thomas. So in goalkeepers, we've got Wes Fodringham, Jordi Amissa. Need a goalkeeper there. We've got Anel, Trusty, Robbo, Luke Thomas, Reece Norrington Davis, Jayden Bogle, John Egan, George Baldock. We've got Gus Hamer, Vinny Souza, Tom Davis and Slimani. We've got Cameron Archer, Ollie McBurney, Rian Brewster, Benny Traore,
Jebo,
and Will Asula. I omitted mentioning it, but obviously I would love to offer Will Asula a long deal with United. I think he's the future of this football club also. I think he's got a big part to play. I'd love to see him get a long contract and get out on loan to the Championship. I know we're keeping him in and around, again, due to our squad depth currently. But if that improves in January, let's get him out for half a season in the Champ. So that is what I do with our squad in terms of tying up some contracts early doors. Let me know if you agree. If you think somebody else deserves a contract or somebody that I'm offering a deal to doesn't deserve a contract, let me know. All right, me talking about future-proofing the football club. We have to shift that focus now. We've not only brought in good young players and lowered the age of the squad, but we also need to secure the current players that are here as well to ensure we're maintaining that momentum, gelling that squad together, building that foundation. And if we can get these deals over the line, I think we're in a really, really strong position, no matter what division we're in. So just a reminder as well before I go, today is the last day of me eating whatever I like. It's the end of my holiday season, if you like. And from tomorrow, Monday, the 4th of September, I'm doing a Ramble reset. Anybody that wants to join me on that, you're more than welcome. I'm doing it with my personal trainer. And this is what it's all about. Now this is a fitness journey like never before. It's the award-winning AI personal trainer app in your pocket from MyPT. You get a new meal plan every week after your weekly check-in, each one personalised and based on your own likes and dislikes. It's got that artificial intelligence, so there's no more human errors, no more waiting for trainers to reply. Stay on top of your progress with an easy-to-access shopping list. Track your progress with dynamic workout plans to fit around you. I'm delighted to be partnering with MyPT. It's like having your own personal trainer and nutritionist in your pocket. So if anybody wants to join me on my Ramble reset, there's a link in the description. You don't have to by any means, but I'll be keeping myself accountable by trying to get a bit fitter and get in better shape. So that's my plan going forward. If you like this video and you're not already subscribed, please do. If you want to become a Rambler and get in our WhatsApp group where it's very busy, very Blades related, you don't want to wait for another Ramble, you want to get in on the conversation straight away, then again, there's a link in the description for that. Any support that you give is appreciated, but to subscribe means an awful lot and it costs you nothing. And we're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers before Christmas Day. That's our target. So for now, come on, you red and white wizards. Up the blades. Ramble on.